A new villain appears in Central City and causes a collapse in the hero's multiverse, inverting Flash and Arrow's powers, forcing them to fight each other and altering the Earth's rotation. Today we are going to recap the story of the series, Flash vs. Arrow, crossover stories. During a central bank robbery, a pair of metahumans use their powers to provoke a fit of rage in people and make them fight each other while they break into the vault. Upon being informed of the robbery, Barry rushes into the bank and manages to stop one of the customers from being shot, but he doesn't find the criminals. After Flash's intervention, all the people manage to shake off the influence of the hypnosis they've been under and stop fighting with each other. That night, the police locate the suspects and set up a task force to go after them. However, when one of the officers approaches to handcuff Roy Bivolo, the man uses his powers to make him turn against his comrades. When the policeman was about to shoot Detective Joe and his team, Flash showed up to save them and was helped by the Arrow, who used his arrows to immobilize the shooter. That night, Barry discovers that Oliver and his team are in Central City working on a case. The objective is to find the perpetrator of a crime whose weapon is a boomerang. So Flash and Arrow decide to team up to help each other in their investigation. This way, they'll be able to solve both cases much faster. Just then, Barry takes Felicity to Star Labs so that his friends can help her analyze the boomerang. When he gets there, the young man discovers that Dr. Wells wants to talk to him and is scolded for working with the Arrow because Oliver uses unconventional methods to fight crime. Suddenly, the boomerang that Felicity took to the lab loses control and destroys everything in its path until it gets stuck in a pipe. At that moment, Detective Joe makes up his mind and says that he wants the Arrow and his team out of town as soon as possible. In the morning, Cisco and Caitlin manage to find Roy's location and Flash goes after him. However, after breaking into the apartment and attacking the criminal, Barry ends up being hypnotized by him and decides to return to the lab so that his friends can help him get rid of Roy's influence. When he gets there, he discovers that, for some reason, he hasn't been affected by the rage, but he gets a scolding from Oliver for having gone after the metahuman alone, as they had agreed to work as a team. Thanks to Barry's recklessness, Roy managed to escape, but instead of admitting his mistake, Flash dismisses the Arrow's help and claims that he is jealous of his powers. When he arrives at the police station, the young man loses his temper with his coworkers and starts shouting at the captain. Seeing Barry completely altered, Joe approaches him to calm him down and tries to convince him to go to the lab, as he realizes that the young man is under the influence of Roy's powers. However, Flash refuses help and goes after Iris's boyfriend because he knows the policeman is after him. Unlike everyone else at the police station, Eddie doesn't believe that Flash is a superhero and has spent the last few weeks trying to convince his superiors that he should be arrested. Now that he's under the influence of rage, Barry decides to settle the score with him and attacks him in the middle of the road. Frightened, Iris tries to convince Flash to leave her boyfriend alone and, just as he was about to eliminate Eddie, the Arrow appears. At that moment, Oliver uses his arrows to trap his opponent, but Barry starts running at high speed and drags him across the asphalt. So the Arrow decides to try a new strategy and blows up the wall to knock Flash to the ground. He then tries to immobilize him with a tranquilizer, but Barry uses his speed to expel the substance from his body. Determined to prove his superiority, Flash begins a duel against the Arrow, but manages to dodge all his blows. After being hit once, he becomes even more furious and attacks Oliver with all his strength. When he's knocked down, the Arrow throws an arrow through Flash's leg and manages to hold him off while Joe appears in a van. When he gets close, the detective uses blue lights to neutralize the effect of the hypnosis and Barry returns to his normal state. That night, the superhero duo manages to capture Roy and both Dr. Wells and Detective Joe thank the Arrow for his help. From that day on, they change their opinion of Oliver and, although they don't agree with his methods, they both come to admire him as a superhero. With the help of Barry and his friends, the Arrow finds the location of the real owner of that boomerang and realizes that the house is full of explosives. So he and Red Arrow use their arrows to set off the bombs and, after the explosion, they storm the place, but realize that the suspect has managed to escape. Suddenly, some Argus agents appear and Oliver discovers that the man who was eliminated by the boomerang was an employee of that organization. That afternoon, Caitlin and Cisco are passing through Starling City and decide to pay a visit to Felicity's lab to help her conclude the case. At dusk, Digger Harkness invades the Argus base and uses his boomerangs to eliminate the guards. At that moment, John contacts Oliver and asks Green Arrow to go there to stop the boomerang guy before he hurts more people. Minutes later, the archers appear on the scene and begin a battle against the enemy. However, Digger is an experienced criminal and is about to hit Oliver with his boomerangs when Barry appears and manages to save him. After Flash's arrival, Digger realizes that he won't be able to emerge victorious that night and creates a smokescreen to give himself a chance to escape. At that moment, Lila reveals why the man is trying to eliminate her, because she led a mission that went wrong and abandoned her team to die. Luckily, Digger managed to survive and is now seeking revenge. After reassembling the boomerangs that were used during the attack, Barry asks for Cisco's help to find out who is producing those weapons, and the young man manages to identify Klaus Marco's signature. Liberty then goes on a search and finds some clues as to the location of this illegal arms dealer. At dusk, the group heads to the location and Flash arrests all of Klaus's accomplices before Oliver comes through the front door. The pair then attack the smuggler in an attempt to get information about Digger's whereabouts, but the man claims not to know where he is. Furious, Green Arrow shoots an arrow at the criminal and starts attacking him to make him talk. Upon seeing the scene, Barry decides to intervene, but Oliver continues to intimidate Klaus and manages to gather valuable information on how to find Digger. However, when they arrive at the scene, Flash and the Arrow find only Harkness henchmen and realize that they have been tricked. While the superheroes follow a false lead, Digger breaks into Liberty's lab and finally finds Lila. Immediately, the woman grabs her pistol to defend herself and starts shooting at the enemy, but when her bullets run out, she is hit by a boomerang and Liberty throws a bomb to scare the invader away. After the attack, Lila collapses and is taken to the infirmary. When John appears and sees his wounded ex-wife, he panics and Barry rushes to take her to hospital. After getting his revenge, Digger walks to the train station as he plans to leave the city. However, Liberty manages to track him down and the pair of superheroes go after him. As he was already expecting to be found, Digger claims to have a contingency plan. The man reveals that he has planted 5 bombs that are hidden around the city. So Flash and the Arrow will have to choose between capturing him or defusing the bombs and saving hundreds of lives. Upon hearing this, Flash contacts his friends to find the location of the bombs while Green Arrow begins a duel against the criminal. When he finds the first bomb, Flash discovers that it has a protection mechanism that will make all the others explode if one of them is defused. So Flash will have to use his powers to lead his friends to the other bombs. That way, they can disarm them all at the same time. At that moment, the Archer manages to capture Digger and takes him to prison. That night, when Lila wakes up, John is by her side and asks his ex-wife to marry him once again. After almost losing her, the man realizes that he still loves her and Lila accepts his request because she feels the same way about her ex-husband. In a parallel dimension known as Earth 90, Flash and all the other members of the Justice League are defeated by March Novu, who eliminates them to steal the Book of Destiny. After completing the first stage of his mission, Novu travels to Earth 1 and comes into contact with psychiatrist John Deegan. At that moment, the time traveler hands him the book and advises him to use it to restore the world as he sees fit. That night, John causes major changes in his universe and, when he wakes up, Green Arrow realizes he's in Flash's house. When he gets out of bed to try and understand what's going on, he comes across Iris, Barry's current wife. However, the woman doesn't realize that her husband has been changed and acts naturally, as if she had always been married to Oliver. It doesn't take long for the Arrow to discover that, as well as having inherited Barry's life, he's also been given his powers, and he rushes to Star Labs to try and find out what's going on. After undergoing all the tests, Oliver is told that there is nothing wrong with him and is even more confused when he realizes that both Caitlin and Cisco also think he is Barry. Frightened, he has no choice but to go to Starling City to talk to the real Barry, who is now being mistaken for the Green Arrow. During a mission, while fighting a gang of criminals, Barry manages to defeat all the henchmen, but John is about to be attacked when Flash shows up to save them. Now, the pair need to find out who was responsible for making that switch and decide to return to Star Labs to ask their friends for help. Unable to understand what is going on, the team decides to set up an ambush to imprison Barry and Oliver in a cell capable of neutralizing Flash's powers until all doubts are cleared up. In an attempt to find out what's going on, Barry devises a plan to get to Earth 38 and enlist the help of Kara Danvers to fix whatever has happened. After burning the blocker, Barry guides Oliver so that he can use his new powers to get them out of that prison. After getting out of there, the pair go in search of the extrapolator, a device that will allow them to travel to Earth 38. Just then, Iris appears and hands over the extrapolator after saying goodbye to her husband, because she can't wait to have the real Barry back. Upon arriving on Earth 38, the superhero duo travel to Smallville, Kansas, and both are relieved when they discover that Kara knows how to tell them apart correctly. At this point, Barry and Oliver realize that only Earth 1 has been affected by whatever has happened and ask for Supergirl's help to clean up the mess. Meanwhile, on Earth 1, an android invades Star Labs and confronts Caitlin and Ralph, but manages to defeat them easily. Amazo then attacks the security guards with the new superpowers he has acquired, as he is able to copy the powers of the metahumans he faces. After the android escapes, the scientists begin to think of a way to capture it, and Ralph says that the only way to do this is with the help of Flash and Green Arrow. Just then, Iris appears and reveals that she let them escape because she felt there was something wrong. After receiving this news, the scientists discover that Amazo is back, flying over the city in search of new metahumans. When he realizes that Central City is in danger, Cisco decides to go to Earth 38 and asks his friends for help. At this point, Supergirl decides to go with them and invites her cousin, Clark Kent, to help them untangle the mess. The strategy consists of attacking the robot with several blows in a row to try and keep it occupied, as this will make it easier to prevent it from replicating their skills. When he realizes that Amazo has been weakened by the attack, Superman buries him underground and the whole team celebrates their victory. What none of them realize is that the android is still alive and uses his new abilities to escape. He then manages to scan them to acquire their superpowers and becomes the most powerful creature on the planet. Seeing his friends being defeated, Cisco begins to think of a strategy to shut down that machine, as this is now the only way to stop Amazo from acquiring new powers. While Flash tries to lure the robot into a trap, Cisco contacts Green Arrow and reveals that he has created a virus capable of resetting it. The challenge now will be to get that virus into the android, since its body is completely impenetrable. Seeing Oliver being followed by the target, Supergirl knocks him out with a punch and enlists Superman's help to hold off the creature while Barry shoots an arrow into its eye. In this way, the Archer manages to insert the virus into Amazo's operating system and the robot is destroyed. After helping his friends eliminate the android, Clark reveals that he must return to Smallville to protect his world while Supergirl remains on Earth 1 to help Barry and Oliver undo the exchange. Thanks to Cisco's superpowers, the team discovers the true identity of the creature behind all the mayhem and decides to go to Gotham City in search of Deegan. Meanwhile, in Starling City, Kane Wolfman, the son of Slade Wilson, attacks Argus agents and John assembles a team of soldiers to try to stop him. However, the shots are unable to stop the villain and the whole team ends up being eliminated. But just as John was about to suffer the same fate as his colleagues, Supergirl, Flash and Green Arrow showed up to stop him. Despite having been saved, John isn't happy to see them, because he knows that when those three superheroes get together, big trouble is on the way. After explaining to his friends what has happened, Oliver asks Felicity and the other scientists to try to figure out how to reverse the situation while he, Barry and Kara are in Gotham. When they get there, the trio start looking for John Deegan and decide to hide their uniforms to pass themselves off as ordinary citizens. The problem is that Gotham is known for being the most dangerous city in the country and, as they walk through the streets, they end up being surrounded by a gang. Before letting them go, the leader of the criminal group orders the tourists to hand over all their valuables. To defend themselves, the superheroes decide to fight back and start a brawl that attracts the attention of the police. That afternoon, the trio is taken into custody, but a mysterious benefactor decides to bail them out and sends a chauffeur to give them a lift. Arriving at the abandoned Wayne Industries building, the driver drives off and Oliver decides to go in with his friends to find out who paid the bail, since Bruce Wayne left town 3 years ago. At that moment, they come across Kate Kane and the woman claims to have paid the bail so that Oliver Queen and his friends can leave Gotham as soon as possible. During a conversation with Kate, Kara asks about Deegan's whereabouts and discovers that he is a doctor at Arkham Asylum. After obtaining this information, Supergirl goes to meet her friends while Kate walks to her secret laboratory to pick up her uniform. After carrying out countless tests to find out what is altering that reality, Felicity and her friends manage to create a magnet to pull in whatever is trying to reach the planet. Suddenly, a portal opens in front of the team and Barry Allen appears to give them a message. The Flash from Earth 90 says that Caitlin and the others need to get the book, as this is the only way to repair the damage that has been done. After receiving this information, Caitlin, Cisco and John go to meet their friends to break the news and help the trio invade Arkham. While Kara and Caitlin lose the reception staff, Oliver and John find Deegan's room, but the doctor manages to escape. Before leaving, the man frees all the villains imprisoned in the asylum in order to gain time to complete his escape. While John tries to stop the prisoners from escaping, Flash uses his super speed to trap them back in their cells and Green Arrow catches them with his arrows. However, at that moment, he is hit by one of the inmates and faints. Cisco is then run over and the masked inmate gets into the vehicle. Suddenly, Batwoman appears and attacks the driver. She then goes after the other fugitives. After searching the entire asylum, Supergirl finds Deegan and steals his book, but the doctor manages to escape. While trying to help Caitlin stop one of the fugitives, Barry and Oliver knock over a box full of vials containing hallucinogenic substances and start fighting each other, seeing their worst enemies right in front of them. During the duel, they give it their all to eliminate each other, and Caitlin calls for reinforcements to stop them from destroying each other. Luckily, Batwoman appears just in time and knocks Flash and Green Arrow to the ground. Now that the team has obtained the book they were looking for, Kate orders them to leave the city, as they have already caused too much trouble for Gotham. When the group arrives in Starling City, they are visited by Barry Allen, and he reveals that he has come from Earth 90 to warn them about a threat called the Novu Sea. According to Flash, the Monitor, as he is known, has been spreading the Book of Destiny throughout the multiverse to test the different versions of Earth. During this conversation, Novu appears in the city center, so the superheroes go there with the aim of forcing him to fix reality. However, Novu sends Flash back to Earth 90 and claims that someone much more powerful than him is coming to cause an imminent crisis. In his defense, the Monitor claims that everything he did was in order to find a group of champions strong enough to stop this coming villain and save the entire multiverse. The man claims that, of all the realities he has tested, this is the only one in which a group of superheroes has managed to recover the Book of Destiny. At that moment, Novu uses his powers to take the book back and return it to Deegan. Once again, the Doctor rewrites reality, turning Barry and Oliver into fugitive criminals. At least this time they don't have their identities switched, and, when the police approach to capture them, Oliver attacks them. While trying to escape, the pair end up being surrounded by Superman and discover that even the superheroes of that universe are after them. In that reality, John Deegan has transformed himself into Superman and uses his new superpowers to attack them. However, during the attack, the villain ends up hitting a tower and must abandon his targets to prevent a group of children from being crushed, because only then will he be able to convince people that he is a real superhero. After letting the fugitives escape, Superman flies to Star Labs, where he is greeted by his new team. Thanks to the changes made by Deegan, all of Barry and Oliver's friends have become Superman's allies, except Supergirl, who is now trapped in the containment cell so she can't use her powers. Upon arriving at the building where Cisco lives, Barry and Oliver try to enter his apartment, but in doing so, they are teleported to a space base, where they meet March Novu again. According to the Monitor, now that all their powers and abilities have been removed, the superheroes will have to rely on themselves to stop Deegan and recover the Book of Destiny. That night, Barry and Oliver decide to pay a visit to the bar where Central City's most dangerous gangsters hang out and finally meet Cisco Ramon, who is now a major crime boss. However, when they try to talk to him, the pair end up getting beaten up by Jimmy and the other henchmen. Just before being thrown out of the bar, Barry claims to have met Cisco's brother and manages to convince him to listen to his proposal. Knowing that the scientist is now a crime boss, Oliver says he will help him get rid of Superman, and, to do so, Barry teaches Cisco how to use his powers to travel to other universes until he reaches Earth 38. After completing this first stage of their mission, they ask Clark Kent for help in saving their universe, and the hero immediately asks where his cousin is. That day, Supergirl discovers that Alex, her younger sister, also works for Deegan and tries to convince her that Superman is not the good guy everyone believes him to be. To Kara's surprise, Alex has already discovered who Deegan really is and knows that he poses a great risk to humanity. So the agent decides to free Supergirl and help her escape. However, just as the pair were about to leave the lab, the villain shows up to stop them and is surprised by the arrival of the real Superman. At that moment, the pair leave the laboratory and begin a duel above the clouds. Meanwhile, Oliver tries to stop John so that Barry and Kara can find the Book of Destiny, which is hidden in the Time Vault. After opening the book, Kara realizes that she doesn't know how to use it to fix reality, so she decides to take the relic to her cousin because he knows how to use it. At that moment, Clark is about to lose the battle against Deegan, but the duel is interrupted by Supergirl, who uses her heat vision to ward off the enemy. When he opens the book, Superman sees a strong blue light coming out of the pages and causes all his friends to regain their special abilities. While the entire universe returns to normal, Deegan decides to make one last attack and manages to steal the Book of Destiny from Superman's hands. While trying to retrieve the book, Clark Kent is attacked by Amazo, but Lois Lane soon appears to bring reinforcements. When he sees the android who possesses Superman's powers, Brainiac 5 doesn't think twice before confronting him, and John Johns uses his abilities to protect civilians. Meanwhile, Flash and Supergirl put their speed to the test by running in the opposite direction to the Earth's rotation. In this way, the pair manage to slow down the planet in order to delay the changes made by Deegan. Just then, Green Arrow appears and shoots an arrow into the Book of Destiny, causing the villain to lose all his powers and have his face completely burned off by the light emanating from the book. After helping Barry and Oliver fix their reality, Supergirl and her friends say goodbye to their companions and return to Earth 38. So what did you think of this series? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more series recaps. See you next time.